Or should I?
Now I am.
Okay, I see. Okay, sounds good. And then you can share it with us, and then we can just, because I know a couple of the students who are working, they want to make up the credit and they want to do it. So I want to be able to make it accessible to them so that they can do it and get credit for it. And
Absolutely.
use up all those beautiful materials that you guys sent them.
Yes.
All
Amazing.
right,
So
sounds good.
yeah, we are recording, and
Oh,
yeah,
maybe.
Swati, on to you.
Perfect. Thank you for joining, everyone. And I really can't wait to make some beautiful pieces today. So before we start, I want to kind of make use of the time. We all have the pots and the steamer, right, for the bundle dyes. Let's just fill the pot with some water and put our steamer inside it and put it on the gas so that by the time we get to it, the steam is already going.
Okay.
So I filled it like just with plain water here, with just plain water. I'm just gonna put it on the stove. So if we can all do that, then we can get back to the bundle dyeing process.
I was wondering how much water do we put in the pot?
Just like maybe 1/4, depending
Okay,
on
it
how.
doesn't need to. Okay.
Yeah.
Not filling it up necessarily.
Yeah, I mean, the quantity of the water really doesn't matter as long as you have enough steam going and the water can last like for 40 minutes on a simmer or medium heat.
Okay.
And then do you prefer steaming over straight up boiling?
I do both, but
Yeah.
I prefer steaming over boiling because I think when you boil, the imprints or the marks kind of are not as clear when you steam them, but they both make different kind of patterns. It depends on what you're going for. Sometimes I make the bundle and put them in like a dye bath of marigolds or onion skin, and then just throw it in the pot. So it's kind of boiling along with your dye stuff. So it's like more complex kind of colors into it. Okay, so and once you put your pot on the stove, just make sure you cover it so that all the steam stays inside. Yeah, so I just want to introduce you all to the world of natural dyes. Are you all kind of beginners, or you've kind of, I know Jennifer has been trying natural dyes, and Sky said, how many people do we have on the call right now?
Just 7, which actually 6, because there's 2 of me and 2 of you.
Oh, okay, perfect.
So 5.
Okay, great. So yeah, I mean, I got introduced to the world of natural dyes very recently. It was in March, where after the lockdown, you know, we had a lot of time, and you know, I was surrounded by just, I have a small dye garden on top, so I was just fascinated by the flowers and by the leaves. So I just wanted to try them and see and work with them, because obviously we were all staying at home, and you know, I wanted to learn something. I took some online classes and just some natural dye books, which I've been collecting over years, and they were really collecting dust. I said, okay, so let's just open them for a change. And I guess once I got introduced to the world of natural dyes, it was just amazing. It's like an addiction. You just can't stop. You want to explore more and more. And now I have like almost half of my actual work studio just filled with dye stuff. But anyways, I think it's easy to work with natural dyes because you can use your kitchen. You don't really need like a full setup. All you need is like some pots and pans, some wooden spoons, some, you know, natural plant material from your surroundings or from your kitchen or from your fridge. You know, so it's easy to start working and learning about natural dyes. So let me just show you what I have today in my kitchen studio. So as I mentioned, showed you this before. So these are avocado pits and peels. They give like a beautiful blush peachy tones. Um, these are marigolds, again from my dye garden. I save them whenever I'm not using them. I dry the extras, and I think they're going to last during the winter season. So these are, they are beautiful for bundle dyeing and even for dye baths. Then I have some fresh flowers. You can use any kind of roses. All roses work beautifully. These are some carnations. This is some new flower in my Thai garden, pansy, which is really, really pretty, and it leaves like a beautiful imprint. So these days I've been working a lot with it. Um, I think these are all the same. I have some eucalyptus leaves. They give a beautiful rust color. Actually, let me also show you the imprints along with it. So this is like the eucalyptus. You can see the imprints on it. It's very subtle, but it's just beautiful. Can you see the imprints?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're beautiful.
These are all eucalyptus. This is like a dye bath of just marigold. This is something called.
About how many marigolds would you use to get a dye bath for about that color for like a yard of fabric or so?
So basically, I mean, it depends on the shade you're going for, but as like a normal rule, if you're using dry flowers, not the powder, but the whole flowers, the weight of the whole flowers should be equal to the weight of your fiber. So if it is 1 yard weighs like 100 grams, then you have to go for like 100 grams of full flowers, dry flowers. Or if you're using like the powder, you know, which you get from dye suppliers, then maybe you might need to go for 20, 25, depending on how deep you want your shade to be. So that's marigold. It's a beautiful spring summery color. This is something called kutch. It comes from an acacia tree. It gives like beautiful kind of terracotta clay colors. It's one of the best colors for fall. I love this, and I use this like a lot. This is like a deeper tone, again from kutch, but I've increased the weight of fiber. So like I mentioned before, if you want to kind of get deeper colors, you just have to increase the intensity of your dye stuff. Then this, again, you can see like I bundle dyed it. You can, you know, it's the same fabric, but then it's bundle dyed with lots of things, lots of flowers.
So Swati, just confirming for that one that you just picked up, that is a dye bath first, and then you bundle dye on top of that?
No, so like what I usually do is I first bundle dye it and throw it in a dye bath of whatever, of kutch. So it's like, so then wherever you don't have the pigments, don't have the flowers, it kind of takes on the dye bath color.
Okay, in reverse. So you're bundle dyeing first and then dye bath.
Yes, you could, I mean, there is no right or wrong way really. You could do either ways. Every time you're going to get like a different kind of pattern. And the beauty about natural dyes is even if you try to get this piece by following the exact way, it might, 90% of the times it will still turn out to be different because there are so many variables, be it the pH of the water, be it how long you've been simmering it, or, you know, just the mood of the dye plant. You know, sometimes it's just, it's very hard to kind of replicate any of the pieces, but that's the beauty about it because each piece is so unique. I mean, of course, you can obviously, based on your practice, you can come up with the proportion kind of like 99% similar. It's always unique. You can never get the same patterns again. It will be in the similar tone range though. This is madder. It just beautiful kind of pink, baby pink. That's madder. This is onion skins. It's a beautiful olive kind of color. This is just onion skins. This is osage actually. You know, the osage woods and bundle dye again. It's beautiful. This is all these were kind of, yeah. So also I wanted to talk about kind of fibers. When you work with natural
Swati, is that your video? Hello? Oh, wait. You've got to unmute yourself. Here you go.
Can anyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, we're back.
Did your phone just go out?
No, my phone is on.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
Okay, you're back?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. What was I saying?
The last thing I saw was onion skins.
Yes, no, onion skins, then we talked about osage.
Osage, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, then we showed about the eucalyptus. Yeah, anyways, and yeah, I wanted to talk about the fibers. Natural dyes basically work very well with natural fibers. Now, what are natural fibers? Natural fibers are two kinds, basically. One which comes from plant, which are called cellulose fibers, and the other one is called the protein fibers, which comes from your animals like wool, silk, and cellulose fibers are like cotton, linen, hemp, jute, banana, anything which comes from plants. The way you work with both the fibers is slightly different in how you pre-treat them before you dye them with natural products. The silk and wool, which the protein fibers are much easier to work with. They can kind of take the dye beautifully. You get much deeper tones. It's also when you do a dye bath with animal proteins, with animal fibers, the evenness is also much better. So if you're really starting your journey now, or just starting your journey, I would kind of recommend to start with, one second, I think there's something on my computer. I just want to remove that. Yeah, you want to start working with silk, because as and when you kind of go along your journey and practice more and understand natural dyes a bit more, I think you can then plan how to work on cellulose fibers to get like beautiful results and the way you want them to be. That's how I started. Silk is still my favorite fabric to work with. But of course, linen is second, because it just looks, the colors are more muted, more subtle. So it depends on what you're going to use the fabric for. You just have to plan it that way in kind of what colors and what fabrics you want to use for. These are kind of, this is again linen. This is again linen. This is red cabbage. Again, bundle dyed with hibiscus, avocado. cochineal. I'm going to come back to cochineal when I show you the remaining of the dye stuff. This
have you ever used like a, sorry to interrupt. Have you ever used like a hammer to smash the pigmentation in first and then steamed it or boiled it?
No, actually, it's a very good question, Jennifer. I haven't, but I've seen a lot of like artists do that technique, and it's just beautiful. You know, you get like clear imprints of flowers, or you know, especially caropsis or even pansies or cosmos, and they look stunning. I haven't really yet tried it, but maybe 2021. You know, that's my next project. But yeah, these are not kind of hammered. These are just bundle dyed. This is again kind of a little moody piece. This is avocado, iron, and cochineal, and I think a bit of hibiscus.
Can you talk a little bit more about how you get the black on that one with the?
Yeah, this is iron. You know, when you kind of, and we're going to do that in bundle dyeing today, when you kind of either put some rusty nails or just add some metal to it, or like ferrous sulfate to it. Most of your dye stuff, other than like cochineal and all, they tend to kind of go deeper and darker, and maybe depending on how you're using it, it turns black. So this is mostly because of iron, which is ferrous sulfate. I have actually in the dye packets, you will see like a little tiny pouch with like a green color powder. So that's ferrous sulfate, in case you want to kind of experiment with it. These are silk, again, silk squares. This is all kind of onion skins and roses. Actually, I don't even remember once it's kind of done what all flowers I've used. These are marigolds. You can see the marigold petals imprints on it. This is all kind of mixed actually. This is like a garden in itself. You'll find lots of flowers and cochineal and lots of leaves and, you know, stuff like that. So you can see like, you know, it's kind of, I use maybe 10 ingredients most of the time, but depending on how you use it, you can really get different kinds of results. So as and when you practice your, dye journey, you'll kind of know what to use, with what to use. You kind of will be able to plan your color combinations. And then you'll be able to get different results from the same dye stuff. And I thought that's fascinating. This is again a very muted kind of tone. This is, I think this is pansies, I'm not even sure. But yeah, this is again just with flowers. Okay, so this is just some inspiration, and maybe you can see like, you know, what all can be achieved from just few dye stuff. Coming back to the dye stuff, I have these onion skins. I have turmeric with me. I have these purple carrot tops, which I'm gonna use today. You know, nothing goes waste. Whatever you don't eat goes onto the fabrics. This is chamomile, just from the tea shop. These are blue hydrangeas, which I kind of saved from the summer. Even pomegranate, you know, these are just the rinds and they are beautiful, you know, as a dye bath. I don't usually use them for bundle dyeing, but it is beautiful to create a bundle, to create a dye bath. And then you have this beautiful kind of cochineal. It's also, it just looks like tiny dots. It comes from South America. It actually grows on cactus, but it's one of my favorite things to use. You really need like a tiny, tiny bit. and it just gives beautiful. Yeah, and I also wanted to kind of show you these powder forms. This is Brazil wood. These are all powdered kind of dye stuff which you can get from your supplier. You have Osage here. This is just the puck, which is another insect. This is marigold. This is the powdered form. So like Allison was asking, you know, how much to use based on whether you're using this powdered form or the actual whole flowers, you will decide the weight of fabric. If you're using the powdered form, which is like more concentrated, you won't need much. Maybe like 30% is good. Yeah, so I just want to show you if you kind of want to start your natural dye journey, you need to kind of, you can start with your natural dye stuff, and more complex colors can be achieved from, you know, dye stuff from around the world, and you can get it from, Myra is a very good source. They're located in Canada, but they're very efficient and very quick. You can get your dye stuff here in like maybe a week's time. And they're kind of very reputed in terms of the quality of the dye stuff. I highly recommend. Another one, which is based in the United States, is Botanical Colors. They have amazing selection of dye stuffs as well, including mordants, tannins, a lot of the stuff. I usually get my supplies from one of these two suppliers. Okay, I think let's get our hands dirty and, you know, dive into bundle dyeing. I think I'm gonna start with just silk. So I have this one square here, which I'm gonna dye. So you can probably lay your, is anyone dyeing along with me today, right now?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So just lay your fabric, 1 second.
Skyla, are you dyeing some of the fabric that Paula gave you that Swati had mordanted already?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Perfect. So you can lay your fabric. I am going to start with some roses. Okay, so the thing about bundle dyeing is you can make patterns on your fabric. So wherever you have your dye stuff, that's where it will leave a mark. So you can plan, you know, you can make various kind of arrangements, or you can have various folding techniques. But yeah, you can just feel free to like experiment and what feels right to you. The idea is just to have fun, really. You know, I'm not very scientific about the whole process, and I just go with the flow. So I think I'm just gonna use a bit of this. I'm gonna definitely use cochineal. So what I do with cochineal is actually just take a tiny bit. That's it. And maybe with like a spoon or anything, just make like a fine powder, as fine as you can get. Just like, or use, if you're using a lot of it, or just, you know, use like a separate mortar and pestle for it, but don't use it for your normal kitchen stuff later.
Paula, yes.
I was wondering what you mentioned before, what color the cochineal will make, but can you remind me again?
Yeah, cochineal will give like a bright, deep kind of fuchsia magenta colors.
Okay, okay.
See these dots?
Yes.
These are all cochineal.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
And you said the eucalyptus is more subtle, right?
Yeah, I mean, based on how you use it, Paula, eucalyptus can also get very dark if you use iron. But yeah, it's not as vibrant as cochineal. But even when you're using cochineal, just a tiny bit goes a long way.
Okay. And I have one more question. So I don't have iron, but I have like this copper pot that you
You're
said
talking about
the copper. Can you see it?
yeah.
How do you think so that will make it, oh, my battery, shoot. It will make it a little bit darker, you said, right? The copper
No,
would?
this pot you're using for steaming, you mean?
No, I have it on the side because I want to experiment with what it will
Okay.
do to the color.
Yeah, I mean, copper, you know, see, steel is neutral. It won't affect the colors, the dye colors. But if you use any copper or aluminium, it might shift the colors of your dye stuff. But the good thing is it also acts as a mordant, which means it fixes the dye stuff onto your fabric very well. So if you're not very particular about, okay, I want to get rust only from eucalyptus,
Yes.
then it's great to experiment.
Okay.
You might come up with like beautiful colors on their own. So yeah.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to try to use that copper pot.
Yeah. We'd love to see your results. Okay, so I'm gonna kind of use cochineal, which I've just kind of made into fine powder. Just use just random, wherever you feel like, just a bit. And just feel free to use whatever dye stuff you have. I'm just gonna use a bit of chamomile.
So for the bundle dyeing, do you just sprinkle like the turmeric powder all over it, or?
Yeah, it's all about putting your dye stuff on the fabric, especially with a kind of fresh petals or fresh onion skins or whatever. Wherever you place it, it will leave a mark there. So if you want to kind of play around with, you know, the arrangement part of it, then, you know, if I put like an onion skin here, you will see in the end when we kind of open the bundles, it will leave a mark here.
Okay.
So yeah, but just make your own arrangement, have fun with it, no kind of right or wrong. I'm gonna use some onion skins to go with it.
Oh yeah, I like the onion skin.
Swati, does the same thing apply if Sky is using, or if anyone's using powders? Like, is there any way to make the powder more uniform or not? Is it the same idea? It'll leave an imprint of the powder wherever you place the powder?
No, I think it's a good question. So powder is like powder. It doesn't have like a print. So it kind of spreads itself around the area. It will leave a mark, but based on how much powder you put, it will spread itself accordingly. So now like cochineal, we actually made it into a powder form. So it will kind of not have an imprint, but it will spread itself around the area. Does that make sense?
It makes sense.
It kind of dissolves, right? Like that.
Yeah, exactly. Say suppose if we use kind of turmeric, it will kind of, based on how much turmeric you're using and how much surface area you're covering, it will turn yellow in that area. Yeah, it's like dissolving. Yeah, I think I'm gonna kind of try some marigolds as well.
Does that make sense, Guy? Or did you have a specific question?
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay. Thanks, Swati.
Oh, you're welcome. Okay, so these are marigolds. Okay. So you can like completely cover your fabric with your dye stuff or the powders or anything what you're using. Then what you want to do is kind of gently roll your fabric. The idea is to kind of have like a tight contact of your dye stuff with the fabric, because that's when it will kind of leave a beautiful imprint. However you roll doesn't matter, but just make it tight. And when we kind of tie it with like a rubber band or a twine, you can make sure it's like tight enough. Just make it into like a cute little bundle. And these are some rubber bands. You can use like a rubber band or a twine or anything. Just make sure that it stays in place, and just make it as tight as possible. Okay, few people also like to kind of wet their bundles before they start putting dye stuff on it. You could do that as well, but I like to kind of make the bundle first and then dip it into a vinegar solution, you know, because I find rolling the dry fabric much easier than rolling like a wet fabric, but both ways are fine. This is just some vinegar, distilled vinegar, just Heinz, and then I'm gonna just dip it into it for maybe just...
We can use lemon juice for that too.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't have vinegar, lemon juice, like a concentrated lemon juice works. Yeah, I'm just gonna kind of... Yeah. Just kind of make sure it's completely wet. Yeah. So once it's completely wet, I'm just gonna put this in the steamer.
What does the acidity do to the process?
Sorry, say that again.
What does the acidity add to the process?
Vinegar kind of also acts like, not really mordant, but it helps bind the colors, and also it brightens the colors. So pH is actually a very important factor in your dyeing practice. So if there's something called pH strips, I use these all the time, especially making, not for bundle dyeing as much, but especially for making your dye baths. As you can see, 7 is kind of neutral, which is mostly a tap water, usually is a 7. It can vary based where you're living. And you can either make it acidic, which is basically 7 and below, or you can make it alkaline, which is like 7 and above. So based on the pH of the water or your dye baths, the color can shift. So you have a lot of modifiers, which is like citric acid or lemon, vinegar, which can make it acidic. So the pH will fall below 7. And below, when you make it acidic, the colors are usually brighter and, you know, they are always very vibrant. When you shift the pH to alkaline, it's more like you can add soda ash to make your water alkaline. It kind of, to me, always ends up giving like metallic or bronzy, coppery colors. But yeah, pH is like one of the most important things if you're really doing a lot of natural dyeing and want to get like similar results, because it can really vary the end result of your dye bath. Okay, so while our silk squares are steaming, maybe we could do our cotton. So this is just a cotton piece.
And Sky, just checking, you have your steamer on, right? Or you have your water steaming?
Yeah,
Cool.
so I just, in the end, if you see, like, this is like a small pot. So I put it on the steamer, it's on medium, and maybe we can put a timer as well. Alexa, can you put a timer for 30 minutes?
30 minutes. Thanks, Alexa.
My dyeing assistant, like what I like to call her. So yeah, we're gonna usually keep the dye bundles for like an hour or more, longer the better. But 30 minutes we're going to do today just for the workshop. You can still see kind of colors coming onto it. For cellulose fibers, I would usually keep them longer than silk because first of all, cellulose always gives you more muted colors. You need more dye stuff to really see the results, and you need longer time periods in your steamer to get good results. But silk, you can start to see colors like maybe in 10 minutes, you know, but obviously you want to keep it longer because, you know, you want to have the colors like a little more, it's not permanent, but kind of permanent, you know. Okay, so coming on to the cotton piece, let's see, what are we going to use? Maybe we're going to use some of the carnations. Oh, maybe we can use a pansy as well. So,
And Swati, for the silk piece, you didn't add any ferrous sulfate, did you?
oh yeah, actually I did not. I forgot, but it's a good observation.
What does it do to it?
It actually, you know, it's not that it's like, you know, you can't go wrong in natural dye process. That's the beauty of it. It will still work. Maybe I will, you know, because I dipped it in vinegar, it still kind of acts as a mordant. But ferrous sulfate sometimes gives like a little more moody tones, you know, at places, or also kind of helps fix your dye stuff. It acts as a mordant, basically, essentially, you know, that's what it is. But it also affects the color of the dye stuff. But that's fine. Maybe we'll fix it later. Okay.
And if folks don't have any ferrous sulfate, again, they could use like rusty nails or penny. Is that?
Yeah, you can also use pennies, or you could, any metal, basically. You know, sometimes I have these copper nuts and bolts, like, you know, I went to like a hardware store. You can add them as well. Like Paula was saying that copper, you know, she wants to use a copper pot. It's the same thing. If you add any kind of metal to your bundle dye, it always helps. And sometimes they kind of leave a beautiful imprint as well, which is nice.
So Paula wouldn't even need any ferrous sulfate added to her pot, is that right?
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah. It always comes like, you know, a beautiful result in the end based on what you're using. Okay, so I'm going to use a bit of chamomile again.
And real quick, if somebody at this point is still working on their first piece and hadn't added ferrous sulfate yet, how would you do that? Or you'll just do that now and show everybody.
No, you can add it, but okay, I'm going to add on this. With ferrous sulfate, you really need like less than a pinch. Think of it as like a salt. You don't want too much salt in your food, you know. So less than the amount of salt you'll put in your food, you use the ferrous sulfate, because ferrous sulfate can also, a lot of ferrous sulfate, a lot of iron can actually damage the fibers. So you don't want to damage your fibers. You just want to assist the dye stuff in kind of, you know, the process. So just use a very, very tiny pinch, just sprinkle. And for students and for everyone actually, just make sure you're very careful when you're using ferrous sulfate. It's still kind of a metal salt. You don't want to inhale or, you know, including, just make sure your kitchen surfaces are clean after you've used it.
Okay.
Don't want to contaminate your food. Okay.
So for anyone who wasn't looking at the screen just now, you took maybe like less than a quarter teaspoon, maybe like an eighth of a teaspoon or so, and you just sprinkled the ferrous sulfate all around your.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Now I'm just gonna kind of, I've never used purple carrots, but they were kind of becoming soggy in my kitchen. So I thought maybe, you know, let's try them. They look like beautiful colors. So
I have one quick question, Swati. Did you put your silk one in the steam bath already?
The silk one, yes.
Okay, so I should do that too then. Huh?
Yeah, yeah. If you finish with your first bundle,
Yeah.
just throw it in the steamer.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, maybe I'm going to use some eucalyptus as well. I've never used eucalyptus on like cotton, but maybe it'll be interesting to see how it turns out.
And Paula, before you put it in, you have it wrapped up in your rubber band, right?
Yeah, tied it with the twine. Is that okay?
Yeah,
Okay.
you just have to make sure it's tight. And yeah, that's it. You can use anything.
All right. Let's see what happens. I have I didn't put it into the copper pot because I wasn't sure.
Okay.
But maybe I should switch it out and do it anyway.
You can do that with your cotton one if you want it.
Yeah, maybe I'll do it with the cotton and put it on in a different. Okay, I'll do it like that.
Yeah, okay. So maybe I'll add a bit of turmeric. No. I want to see how eucalyptus turns out. So maybe I'll put a bit more eucalyptus.
Paula, the teacher in my other class said that you can get a copper rod.
Oh.
Like you can just buy them on eBay, like, you know, with a diameter of like less than half an inch, and
Okay.
then wrap your fabric around the copper rod.
Okay.
If you didn't want to put it in a whole copper pot.
Oh, that's so interesting. Okay. I might have like copper wire here somewhere.
Yeah, like that would be really cool. Like I bet you could see the crisscross of the copper
Yeah,
wire.
I'll go find some in my son's little toolbox. Maybe I'll experiment with that because that will probably create a nice pattern on it too, right?
Yeah, it kind of, sometimes creates like a shibori pattern, like a tie.
Swati, I wanted to try to use the avocado pit. So do I just chop it up on it?
Are you using the avocado skin?
The pit of the avocado. I have one.
Yeah, you can crush it. I don't know if you can
Crush it up.
Yeah, chop it up and use that.
Okay.
Usually avocado in my practice, Paula, works really good for dye baths.
Okay, so maybe I'll leave it for when I do a bath then.
Yeah, but the peels actually work very well. If you have a peel or something.
No, I got rid of the peel. I didn't realize you could use the peel.
But yeah, actually you can also crush it. It's nothing wrong with it, right?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I'm gonna trim.
So you've now finished up sprinkling all of your good things and you're tying it really tight in a couple of rubber bands after spiraling into a little snail.
Yeah, I mean, and you can also use a twine, and I'm just again gonna dip it in the vinegar just for like a couple of seconds till it soaks and becomes wet. The important thing about bundle dyeing is that your bundle should be wet. Otherwise, it won't take the imprint or it won't take any color. Especially, the water has to go like deep inside. Here, because I've not wetted beforehand. A lot of people wet it before, so then it works perfectly well. Yeah.
When they do the wetting before, what do they use? Just regular water or?
Yeah, just like a spray, you put your vinegar or normal water based on what you're going for. You just put in a spray kind of bottle and just spray all over it.
Okay.
Yeah. But, okay. So I'm just gonna put this in the steamer as well. Okay. So that's our 2 bundles steaming now. Yeah, anyone interested in kind of listening a bit about mordanting and pre-treating the fabric, just real quick?
Yes.
Okay.
That's good.
Okay, so
Also, oh wait, sorry, real fast. Since Paula and Sky, you two are the ones doing the thing right now. Do you have any like questions or about where you're at currently?
Not really.
I have some fresh hydrangeas. The fresh hydrangeas, they work as well as the dried ones.
yeah, I mean, anything fresh is equal to dried,
Okay.
it will work beautifully. Dried, sometimes you have to use a bit more in terms of quantity.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, hydrangeas give beautiful color.
Just pick them off and go to town.
Yeah, it's kind of very soothing, actually, the whole process of tearing the things apart. And it's kind of soft music going in the background. I can totally imagine myself away from the city when I'm doing this.
Yes. Escaping from.
Okay, so while you're doing, we'll wait for you, Paula, to finish your thing. Or is it okay if I go ahead for the modant?
Yeah, well, you can go ahead and talk. I'm gonna listen because I want to know how to do it later on.
Okay, perfect. So mordanting, wow, it's I would call it more like baking, where you have to be kind of a bit more scientific about the process. Bundle dyeing and dyeing is more fun, and you can't go wrong with it. But mordanting is a very, very essential part for your dye stuff to kind of really work very well. It's kind of pre-treating the fabric, opening up the fibers to kind of receive the dye stuff and bind them later on. The way you treat your cellulose and your protein fibers are different when it comes to mordanting. Silk fiber, animal fibers are much easier to work with, or mordant. I use something called simple alum. It's just like a powder. It's the most used salt for mordanting. This is for silk. You just have to, before mordanting, you also have to kind of clean your fibers, a process called scouring. You have to kind of make sure all the grime and dirt from your fabrics is gone before you start to kind of dye your fabrics. So once you've kind of cleaned your fabrics, then you have to mordant them. You will find the instructions on how to mordant them in the kind of PDF, which we shared. Silk and wool fibers don't need extensive steps to kind of mordant them. You can use simple alum and it works. When it comes to cellulose, I don't use alum. However, you can also use alum. When I work with cellulose fibers, essentially there are 3 kind of steps in mordanting. Before you use alum or aluminum acetate for mordanting, you have to use a tannin. It's called a tannin dye bath, which is kind of either gallnut oak or myrobalan powder. Let me show you that. So this is like a tannin. It's called myrobalan. It's like
Swati? 180. Yes, there you go.
Okay, so this is, again, you can get it from Myra. So you have to do first a tannin bath. After the tannin bath, you'll work with aluminum acetate, or you can also work with alum based on what you have. And then you have to kind of do an after bath of either calcium carbonate or wheat bran. So it's like a few steps for cellulose fibers for mordanting. And then you have to soak it overnight, but you'll find all the instructions in the kind of PDF. You'll find aluminum acetate and alum from any of your dye suppliers. Aluminum acetate is sometimes hard and it's a bit kind of expensive as well. So unless you kind of really want to pursue your natural dyeing journey, which I hope you do, alum will work. It can work both for protein and animal fibers. So once you've kind of mordanted your fabrics, sometimes I like to kind of cure them. Curing, I mean basically not using the fabrics for 2 or 3 weeks, because sometimes few of the dye baths kind of become deeper if you've not used the cure fabrics, so it can change the tone. So especially, so if you're doing if you're wanting to achieve like a particular shade and you've kind of not cured your mordanted fabric, especially for Kutch, I've kind of noticed that it changes the dye color after some time, which is great. I mean, if you're not doing like a client's work or anything, if you're just doing for your own, it's perfectly fine. But like for Sky, if she wants to be like a fashion designer and she wants to kind of do it for her clients, then maybe that's something you want to kind of keep in mind. And also, the more you practice, the more you'll kind of realize that what works and what doesn't. So yeah, but mordanting is like an essential step. You can't just pick up any fabric and dye with it. You can sometimes, turmeric will work with any clothes. Like, you always have turmeric stains on your clothes, but eventually after a few washes, it goes. It doesn't in my case, but still, it goes. So, you want your dye stuff to be permanent. So that's why mordanting really helps when you want. It's not really permanent. In natural world, nothing is permanent. And that's the beauty about it, because once you've started to notice that the color is fading, you re-dye it. You kind of give a new life to your clothes and maybe change the color or make it, or bundle dye it, So basically it's less consumption and you still have a variety of fabrics or clothes in your wardrobe with natural dyes, which is really great and fascinating. So yeah, you have to kind of mordant your fibers before you dye them. Any questions on mordanting? I know I've kind of touched upon it real quick, but in case you have anything.
Yeah, I have one quick. Oh,
No,
the alum.
go for it.
Okay, so with the alum, do you just like submerge the fabric into the alum, or is it like,
So
do you do it like one side and then do the other?
no, so with, say suppose I'm mordanting silk fibers. So you think of mordanting as like a dye bath, but you're just doing it with alum. So you kind of mix alum based on the weight of fabric with hot water and put it like in a dye pot, mix it, and then heat it up to kind of 85 degrees
Okay.
based on what fiber you're using, and then put your fabric into it. And then you kind of have to heat it for maybe an hour or so. Sometimes a lot of people kind of let it soak and, kind of steep like a tea. It's kind of, experimenting. You have to kind of see what works and what doesn't, because like I said in the beginning, natural dyes, any small variable actually changes the end result. So if you kind of soak your fabric in alum solution for maybe 2 days or 3 days, I mean, obviously you don't want to get it like all moldy and all. You just have to make sure that it still is fresh. If you soak it more, maybe it will give you deeper colors, so you have to see in your practice what you like, what works, what doesn't. I sometimes soak it overnight for silk, but for cellulose, I definitely soak it for every single process, which is tannin, alum, and wheat, all three individually for at least 24 hours. Because cellulose, like I said, it always gives you muted colors, so you want to make sure that your fabric is mordanted perfectly. So yeah, it's kind of similar to dye baths.
I'm going to use the pomegranate seed. Do I need to crush them?
No, you can just throw them in.
Okay.
Yeah. And sometimes, like you mentioned, Paula, pomegranate seeds, there are a lot of kind of berries as well, or like beetroot, you know, which have like a beautiful kind of color to it. But in the natural dye world, we call it something, there are two categories of dyes, the fugitive and substantive. Um, there are these kind of, and there's something called stains. So
Yeah.
like a red wine stain, or like, you know, a beetroot. Beetroot is really not a dye pigment. It's not a pigment. It's more of a stain. So it would eventually kind of fade off.
So the pomegranate will probably fade a little bit?
The seed, not the rind.
Okay. Oh.
Yeah. So, yeah, I learned from someone that, you know, basically think about whatever we using, whatever we eating,
yes,
will usually not work, but whatever we are not, which is the pits, the peels, whatever goes waste, usually can be used and works well in terms of color fastness and light fastness. You want to make sure that your dye stuff is both color fast and wash fast. You know, I mean, especially for designers who are doing client work, these two are like the most important things. You know, you want to make sure that once you give your product to the client, it doesn't just like fade away in a month time and it comes back like as a white canvas, you know? So you have to make sure that you work with dyes or dye stuff which are more color fast. There are a lot of companies who would do like a light fast test for you if you don't want to do it at home, which is not like very scientific anyways when you do it at home. There are a lot of companies who would do that, and especially if you're doing your work for clients, they would tell you like, okay, this is light fast, so at least you can be sure that it would work for your clients. So these are kind of tests with wash fastness. Most of the dye stuff is wash fast if you've mordanted the fabric well. Turmeric, you know, I still feel turmeric kind of, if it is like a dye bath, it kind of changes color and, you know, becomes fader. It fades over time, but it's still beautiful. However, if you use it with other dye stuff in your bundle dyes, you know, even if it fades a bit, it won't really make that much of a difference. So based on what you're doing, you can choose your dye stuff as well.
Okay.
Does that make sense, Paula?
Yeah, sounds good.
Perfect. How are you doing, Skya? How are you getting along?
Pretty good. I just put, let me see. I have 4 different bundles in the pot right now.
Oh my God, wow.
You are fast.
Yeah.
You're pretty fast.
Right.
Have you like used all different dye stuffs and all of them?
Yeah, I experimented with every different material in here.
Nice.
Okay, that's awesome. Great.
And we just got joined by Jose, who didn't get his stuff and couldn't come to the school to pick it up, but he's probably going to do it on his own and hopefully watch the video and I'll help him.
Awesome.
So Jose, say hello to Swati and Allison and everybody.
Hi, Jose.
Hi, Jose.
Hello.
Hi.
Okay, at this point, I think it should be 15 minutes. I'm gonna just turn my bundle so that, you know, it gets the steam evenly.
Oh, so I should do that too?
Yes, yes, please.
Okay.
So you just flip them over on the other side? Is that all what you're doing?
Yeah, just flip them over.
So if Sky or if anybody had been like slowly adding bundles to the pot, would they wait like 15 minutes per?
No. It's like a curry. You keep stirring.
Okay.
Yeah. It's no science. You can keep adding a bit water also to your bundles if you think that they're really drying up. You just want to make sure that your bundles are wet. because, yeah.
Where are you adding the water? Do you mean you're putting more water in the bottom of the pot to make sure it's still steaming, or you're dipping the bundles again into vinegar and putting them
So
in?
I just basically take like a glass of water and just like pour it over the bundles so it will soak up a bit more water. But you also have to make sure that the water underneath is not dried up.
Okay.
So yeah, there should be enough water for the steam, and also you don't want to, spoil your pot, which I've done many times. Yeah.
Because of the steam.
I'm just adding a bit more water.
Turmeric.
Okay. Yeah, in terms of like a studio setup, I do it in my kitchen. I don't have any access to like a dyeing studio at the moment. Thankfully, I have like a big roof, which I use to dye and dry my fabrics. But you really don't need a lot of space, a lot of fancy equipment to start dyeing. All you need is like some pots and pans, some spoons, some glass jars to store your dye stuff. Apart from your mordants and tannins and your um, fresh flowers, in terms of equipment, what you really need is pots and pans, a wooden spoon, some rubber bands, pH strips, a thermometer. I didn't have a thermometer, so I'm just using something which is meant for food. But Amazon has a lot of kind of cheap candy kind of thermometers. You can use that. It's just basically to check the temperature of your water, especially when you're mordanting and if you're doing like a dye bath. You don't want to kind of really boil your fabrics. So maximum temperature I would use for silk is kind of 85, not more than that. For linen and like for cellulose fibers, you can go a bit higher, maybe 90, but again, never boil them. You still want to kind of ensure that the quality of fibers is intact, especially if you're using iron in your bundle dyes or in your batch dyes. Yeah, or you also want some pair of tongs. You don't want to kind of burn your fingers, or gloves, heat protective gloves. I don't use either, but it's highly recommended to use those. Sometimes, definitely if you're working a lot with iron or alum salts, a face mask, or aluminum acetate, it's such a fine powder. You definitely don't want to inhale it. So a face mask is definitely recommended, safety first. Yeah, and then, yeah, you don't need much. You can start your natural dyeing journey from home.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Are there other methods to do this? For example, if you want to dye like an entire hoodie, I'm not sure if there's a pot big enough for that. So are there other methods to dye the materials?
Good question. So if you want to dye like your full hoodie, and if you're doing a bundle dyeing technique,
yeah,
there are various techniques. Like, okay, that's a good question. Let me come to like various techniques of how you can dye your fabrics. One is like a vat dye, which I showed you in the beginning, like a marigold or pomegranate, which is the entire fabric, or a bundle dyeing where you kind of, transferring the color to the fabric through steaming. Then you have something called shibori or a tie and dye, where you kind of, bundle or fold your fabrics in a particular way and tie them around those wooden blocks or clip them in a certain way to create patterns. But then you have to throw them in a dye bath. So there are various kind of techniques. Then in the beginning, Jennifer was mentioning about using like the hammer,
oh yeah,
to create like proper prints on fabric. That's another technique. Alexa, stop. So that's another technique, or something called eco printing, where you actually making like if it is a eucalyptus leaf, it's you have a clear print of the eucalyptus leaf on the fabric. So there are various kinds of techniques based on what you want to design. You can do that technique. So today we're doing bundle dyeing. You can still bundle dye your hoodie. And actually in our last workshop, somebody bundle dyed their hoodie, right? And it turned out beautiful. You can do exactly the same technique, what you did with a piece of square, like a square cotton piece or linen. You just have to use a lot of dye stuff. You have to make sure that everything is covered. Put your kind of sleeve, if you have a long sleeve, on top of your front, and then roll it so that the sleeves also get your imprints.
Would it be better to put the materials like inside of the hoodie so that it evenly goes to both sides?
So when you fold it, you know, the back is coming in front and coming in contact with your dye stuff. So it will be printed on both sides.
Okay.
So yeah, you can just roll it up and then again, tie it. You don't have to make it like a roll again. You can just completely tie it with your twine. You just have to make sure it's intact. Your dye stuff is intact and it's like it won't be a big bundle. It can still go in your steamer. Okay. You know, my dye pot is not that big. I still dye like a bundle dye big fabrics. When you roll it up and tie it tightly, it'll become like a small bundle.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just for Jose, who is not really dying, but he has a project in mind that he wants to do. So Jose, this is a good time for you to maybe ask for some tips and give Swati an idea of what you want to do for yours. And she can advise you about the best way to get the colors that you actually want to get. Because he has some specific colors that he wants to.
I want to get blue, red, and white.
He wants to do something based on the American flag.
I want to do the American, like, all right, so I'm gonna explain. I want to do the American flag, but I want it upside down, and I'm gonna put tears, like the tears that have been shed from the country, from the black and brown people. I want the red to look like blood, for the blood that's been shed, and then I want to put people, like, in
After
the back.
you're gonna add the people, you're gonna have to add the people afterwards.
Yeah.
Okay. So you could do various things. I'm not sure if you can get like clear colors in one cloth the way you want it, but you can always like make different colors in different pieces and then join them together in the way you like it. So say suppose white is easy. I mean, you know, you already have a white piece of fabric. Indigo is great to get blue. It's a little more scientific and technical. I haven't myself worked with indigo, but I can definitely send you on like a starter kind of instruction book on how to dye with indigo if that's what fancies you. If you want to kind of get blue prints, like a bundle, using bundle dye technique, I sometimes use blue hydrangeas to kind of get blue prints. Or, you know, you have these iris flowers, you know, like blue flowers. Sometimes we'll give you blue prints on a white base, if that's what you want to do. But if you just want like a full blue, indigo is your best bet to get blue. Red actually you can get from, you can get red a lot. I mean, in terms of bundle dyeing, you can get reds from a lot of things like carnations, even sometimes lark, you know, the insect I showed you in the beginning, or you weren't there. That also gives a beautiful red. You can get red.
But you have that in your packet. Yeah. Sorry, he has. I have. You have those things that Swati are mentioning in your packet, okay? And we have them at school.
Okay, perfect.
It's just the indigo we don't have, and I guess we can always get the blue, what was the other plant that you mentioned for blue?
Hydrangea?
Hydrangea, yeah, we can get hydrangeas.
Yeah.
The project is due tomorrow, right?
You have the weekend to finish it up.
Oh, we have the weekend to finish it up? For real?
Yeah, but I'm not gonna be on, sorry, but I'm not gonna be on with you over the weekend. So if you want me to help you, it has to be tomorrow, okay? And also, Allison is recording the video for the workshop now. So she'll make it available to us so that we can see some of this. You can see some of the stuff that you missed.
I'm gonna start today now.
For to Jose's question, in terms of like making specific patterns, with any of these natural dye steps, do you have any like tips for Jose, for anyone who wants to be making like specific shapes?
Specific shapes, like prints on the fabric, right? Yeah, that's like eco printing, where you kind of really have to either hammer it, where you get the exact print. It's a complete separate technique. Or you kind of lay your eucalyptus leaves, especially, things which give you clear prints. You just lay them on a well-mordanted wet fabric, and then you fold it in such a way that, the alignment doesn't kind of go for a toss, because when you're bundling it, it sometimes kind of, goes all over the place and you don't get clear prints. I haven't myself tried like doing eco printing, but I have seen like videos on it where people lay their leaves in a particular manner, like the way they want it, and then gently kind of fold it in a way that it stays there. And then again, steam them. It's the same process for steaming, but I think it's just the way you fold it and you lay it is different than bundle dyeing. But if you look up eco printing, Jose, if you want to kind of check out on YouTube or something, you'll find tons of videos on how to get like specific imprint.
Make sure you write that down, because my hands are occupied. I'm not going to be able to write it down for you. My hands are completely full.
Okay, so I think I'm going to, Alexa gave me like a reminder that 30 minutes are off. So I'm just going to check the bundles and take them out. I'm going to first take, okay. I have a few tips for using mine. Alexa, stop. She talks too much sometimes.
Like Jose.
Okay, so that's our first.
Yeah. My name.
Okay. Okay, so this is the first bundle which we kind of put in. It's a little hot. I'm just gonna kind of make sure the steam is off. So we're gonna open it. Let's see what result we have today. This is the fun part, where you're like always wondering whether it has worked, not worked.
Reveal.
So let's see.
Swati, is this your silk or your cotton?
It's the silk. I wanted to kind of give some more time to the cotton, and I put that later as well. So, okay, let's see.
So if anyone's taking out their fabrics right now, they should probably just take out the silk as well and leave their cellulose fibers in longer, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
And I'm gonna leave mine a little bit longer, because I think I put mine in about 5 or 10 minutes after.
Yeah. So don't be in a hurry to take it out. You can leave them like for as long as you want. If you really want to see, you can take out the silk, because silk doesn't need that much time. So see, we have like a vibrant piece today. And especially when it dries, it looks a bit different than what it is in the currently.
I love those colors.
Yes, you can see the vibrant like rose where the rose was.
The rose.
It's kind of all deep pink.
Wow.
Yeah,
What's that darker red? The dark color there. What made that one?
this one,
At the bottom where it's like a line going across. Yeah, what's that?
this one, I think it was the pansy.
Oh, okay, that's beautiful. I like that.
Yeah, and especially, you know, when all these colors mix together, sometimes they create their own kind of rainbow, you know, it's just beautiful. So you can see these big kind of rose leaves are beautiful.
Nice.
And especially when it dries, it will look different. So yeah, this is like a vibrant color. I'm gonna take out my cotton as well and see how that one is doing.
And Sky, looked like you took out one of your fabrics and looks very beautiful.
Oh wow.
Oh, that's pretty, Sky. Wow. Is
Stunning.
it the eucalyptus that made those nice patterns?
Yeah, it is actually.
That's
And I
pretty.
put some of the pomegranate seeds on it.
The tea?
The pomegranate seeds.
Oh, nice.
It's very nice.
I love it.
Thank you.
That looks so good.
Mine is still boiling, so.
This is the cotton.
Whoa.
You can see like a complete result, different result.
Yeah. It doesn't bleed in as much, it seems like.
No, depends. Like Paula, if you kind of really use a lot of powder, it will bleed in. But if you kind of use a lot of dry stuff,
Yeah.
it leaves a beautiful imprint. Yeah, I kind of really like
I
this.
really like that too.
Yeah, look at the carrot tops. Can you see the carrot tops?
Oh, that's what the carrot. Okay.
Yeah. You can, it's very subtle, but you can see these carrot tops here.
Yeah, it's the shape, the same shape.
Yeah, a lot of these small shapes.
It almost looks like a snake skin.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I like that.
So,
And especially, it will look very different when you dry up. You know, especially
How is it going to look different, Swati? How should people expect for their fabrics to look different?
it will look a bit more shinier. Like right now, you can't see any shine on silk. The colors will be a little more muted. Whenever the fabrics are wet, they always look a bit deeper and darker versus when they are wet, or when they're dry. So the colors will go lighter, especially silk, when it's dry. And I love to dry it with a hair dryer because I'm so kind of impatient that, you know, just want to see how it looks, because currently I don't know how it's going to look unless it's dried. I also want to kind of talk about the aftercare. Once you've kind of bundle dyed your fabrics and you've steamed them, opened them, and air dried them, make sure that you kind of iron them on like the highest possible setting, because that just kind of helps the dye stuff to really bind with, like a final step to bind with the fabric. And then wash it with like a pH neutral soap. We said that pH is like an important variable in your color shifting. So if you use any soap which is not pH neutral, your colors can still shift, even if it is after 2 weeks or 2 months. So you have to use like a pH neutral soap for your natural dyed products all the time. And it doesn't need to be like any fancy soap. I use Mayer's, which is usually pH neutral, or you have like Castile soap, you know, Dr. Bronner's, and those work very well. Nothing fancy, you know, but I would stay away from any toxic, like full of, not toxic, full of chemicals. Just a normal, gentle soap works well. Yeah, and you don't want to expose your fabrics continuously to sunlight. Um, it's not like you can't wear them outside, but you don't have to kind of uh, fold them and keep them on your windowsill forever. So sunlight can definitely fade your fabrics over time. So you always have to kind of, be mindful of that and keep them covered either in your dark place or like in a wardrobe or yeah. So aftercare is as important as, dyeing them with beautiful dye stuff. So yeah, I want to
Swati, I'm noticing in just like riffing on the making patterns out of your dye stuffs and doing bundle dyeing. So I'm noticing, of course, that you have these like lines going through your fabrics, like horizontal or vertical lines, as you wrapped them, as you like folded them and then tied them into bundles. And I wonder, just like for everyone else who's wanting to make patterns, how you could use that technique in order to like make, let's say for Jose, like those American flag lines.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, that's I think
or for that matter, like because, or like if there's a way in particular to not have those lines show up, like if you just like crumple the fabric instead of nicely wrapping.
Yeah, I mean, there's no like kind of set rule as to how you should wrap them. You can experiment, but the most important thing is that they should be really tight. However you wrap them. Sometimes I wrap them like a handkerchief, like fold them in 4 squares and then kind of roll it. It gives different results. But most of the time, like if I'm throwing them in the dye bath, then it's like complete different result because you don't get clear prints. It kind of has a bit of smudgy kind of effect when you boil your fabric instead of steaming them. So kind of each step can actually affect the end result. But again, that's the magic, also, you have to embrace a lot of, not imperfections, but what the nature has to really offer. I've tried, like sometimes, one of my clients, she wants a specific, she's seen something on my website and she's like, no, I want exactly the same. And I'm like, it is not possible. It's just, I've tried to replicate it, but it just wouldn't come, And she's like, no, I kept that piece you sent to me for myself, but I want to sell it in the store also. I'm like, you've given me a hard task. It's impossible sometimes to kind of have like a exact piece or even similar looking piece, because in my practice, I've noticed that a lot of the dye stuffs together sometimes creates their own color. So, it will always give you a different effect. So people who are not too particular about a certain color or how it should look, this is great, So I usually work with them for natural dyes, yeah. So,
and sorry to interrupt, Swati, but we are a little less than 5 minutes out, and I just want to give anyone else an opportunity to ask questions. Yeah.
Or and if Sky, you want to show your other pieces as well, if you've taken any out.
Yeah, I took out this was.
That's amazing. It looks like a pink.
Shit, sorry, I muted you accidentally, Sky.
Yeah, it's a pink, purple, and there's dashes, little spots of yellow in there.
Yeah. It's really nice.
Thank you. And then this one,
yellow a little bit.
I put a lot of turmeric.
Turmeric,
Oh,
yeah.
turmeric?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so the turmeric, the thing is, if you put a bit of turmeric, it just spreads and it just takes over the entire fabric, which is great, because it's a beautiful, vibrant yellow. But Sky, remember one thing, whatever looks on your wet fabric will always go a bit muter eventually. So
Okay.
if you want to achieve a little more brighter and noticeable tones, put more dye stuff or steam them for longer. Or
Okay.
if you are going by your eye, then make sure you kind of let them steep or kind of steam a little more than what you would like, because once you kind of wash them and dry them, it would look very muted.
Okay.
Which is fine, which you can always rebundle dye them or re-dye them, you know, there's
Yeah.
no harm in it, but yeah.
I
What
have
is the
a question.
process? Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Is it possible to use any type of flower, or is it specific type of flowers and plants that would can be used as dyes?
You can experiment a lot, but most of the flowers with colors usually give good results. One trick is like if you kind of take a fresh petal and just rub it on your fabric with some water, if it leaves a mark, it usually will work.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, darker flowers, most of them work, you know, but sometimes few flowers, especially hibiscus, it gives a beautiful, beautiful color when you first work with them. But maybe after, if you've not kind of used other dye stuff, the hibiscus will fade.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also, would you recommend hand washing the materials that you dyed for, or?
Always. Always.
Okay.
You want to kind of, you know, increase the longevity of, you know, your dye stuff as much as possible. And also they're so delicate, you know.
Yeah.
Obviously, the soap has to be pH neutral. So if you shouldn't be putting them in laundry or anything along with other things, because sometimes they might bleed as well. Not that it will stain other fabrics, but you don't want to take a chance, especially with turmeric.
Okay.
Swati, what have you made with those squares of fabrics that you've dyed? Do you make, what have you used them for, just in your own personal?
These ones, the ones I made right now.
Oh no, like the ones that you showed us in the beginning, or generally, what have you made from the things that you've dyed?
Actually, yeah, I actually have a textile studio. So yeah, I actually work with a lot of stores and also have an online website where I sell them. So the squares were like a bandana or a neckerchief, or, you know, people use them as masks these days. And yeah.
That's cool. You
Yeah,
can make masks from them.
Do you have any tips for if anyone's over dyeing, like doing like one bundle dye and then they're like, okay, no, not super into how this came out, I'm gonna like do it again. Do you just do exactly the same process, or is there anything different to worry about?
no, nothing to worry about. I just use it as like a blank canvas again, you know, and just use either the same dye stuff or different dye stuff, or, you know, I might throw it in a dye bath, or, you know, yeah, it's just like having fun. I actually don't make too many notes or don't remember what I put in the bundle. It's just about what I feel like and just throw it onto it. And yeah, having fun is the objective. And I think that's when the bundles come out very, really beautiful.
Thank you. We are at 4:30. Paula, how are you doing? And should we go ahead and wrap? Is there anything that you want to share with the class on this recording?
I think just to say that if anybody wants to see some of the stuff that we did in the workshop today, I will post the link to the video on a Google Classroom so that they can see it. And also, I will share Swati's website so that you guys can go and see some of her work for examples of what to do. It would be really lovely if we can kind of put some of our stuff in a place that we can all see them. So I suggested that we could use Instagram, maybe if in the process, just to show like what things look like and what the results are. How does it look when it's dry versus when it's still wet? And then you can just share with us where your tag is for Instagram. I don't remember it. Swati and Allison, and then we'll tag you guys in our posts as we do our stuff, okay? So that's it. Thank you guys so much for all this amazing work, and it's beautiful, and I can't wait to see what my results are. But you guys, I'm already happy because the stuff that you guys did were just amazing already.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. This was so inspiring.
Yes.
So happy to hear. And yeah, Paula, thank you for giving us the opportunity. And Alison, thank you for organizing and helping me out as always. So thank you for this workshop. I had fun. And Paula, make sure that your students kind of, share their work with us. We'd love to see. We've shared our Instagram handles, mine and Alison's, with you. So it would be great.
Yeah, I'll definitely tag you guys when I put mine, and I'll encourage everybody else to do the same.
Perfect. I'd love to see everyone's results.
Awesome.
Definitely.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
It was fun. Thank you. Hope you guys enjoyed.
Sky, I really want to see all of the clothing that you make with this technique. And also that corset, whatever happens with that corset.
Yeah.
With the what?
With the corset.
Yeah.
Oh, corset. Yes, I'm curious.
Yeah.
Jose too, with your American flag. I want to see that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That is interesting to me because I'm curious to see how things will turn out as far as like controlling the material to be able to make stripes and stuff. So I'm really curious about that. All right. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you guys.
Thank you. Paula, I'm gonna go ahead and end this and then send you the recording
Great.
as it finishes.
And then I'll be able to put it up tonight. That's awesome.
Cool.
Wonderful. Thank you guys. And I'll be in touch over the next couple of days, okay?
Okay, amazing.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Okay.
Bye, guys. Sky, you're still here?
Yeah, I'm leaving now.
You're gonna head out?